All right, got some thumbs up, so I feel great about that. But I don't see the point in waiting. I figure we can go ahead and get started. Is that okay with y'all? All right. I know how it goes. You know, the sooner you start, the quicker we end. I heard you. I heard y'all in the waiting room talking about it. So, first of all, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Mark Williams. I'm one of the career advisors in the Stuckert Career Center on campus, University of Kentucky. Definitely come and see us. We are over right across the street from Singletary Center. We're also by BurgerFi in Qdoba. So if you come and visit one of us, feel free to ask us our orders for lunch. I personally will take a burrito bowl. So, my rule is this: if you got me, I got you. Okay. Either way, somebody will get some food. All right. Um, I'm originally from Michigan, and so worked also at the University of Illinois. Worked in Michigan State. I've worked in corporate America for a while, so I have a lot of different experiences. But one of the things I'm glad you're here to kind of talk about are resumes and the value of resumes. And so we're actually going to do two portions of this presentation. First part is kind of really helping you kind of conceptualize what is important when it comes to a resume. And then the second part I'm going to say is more of the nuts and bolts of how to format one. But I want to, before I start there, as we're preparing for the career fair and a lot of other things, before I start the presentation, resumes are important for this very reason. You never know who you will meet at a given point in time. And when I say that, as you continue to network, as you continue to find people, whether it be mentors, those who are doing things that you want to do, you want to always have your resume ready to go. Your resume is what I call your long business card. All right. It has all the information and a snapshot of what you've done over the years. And so resumes are great when you're wanting to put it on LinkedIn, when you want to put it on Handshake. And we're going to show you how to put your resume on Handshake and the value of that. Even if you're introducing yourself to an employer or someone that you're trying to do an informational interview with, it's always great to attach your resume, because once I see a snapshot of what you've done, I might notice some skill sets that can be helpful for us, or an opportunity that someone else may know of that they would like to give for you. So the fact that you're here lets me know that you're ready for that next step and trying to make your resume top notch for opportunities, because the top notch people are looking for you. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and get started now. So, a story worth telling, translating your skills to your resume. I will also say this: if you have questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. I will answer them on the spot. I do not want to sit here and go through this whole presentation without at least two questions, and we will stop, answer the question, and keep going. All right. So just throwing it out there. So, story worth telling. So, when we think about a story, right, especially when it comes to our careers, whether you're in an interview, we always look for that home run answer, right? When they ask us one of those questions like, tell me a time when you've done this. And you're like, yeah, this is the one I'm going to tell you. It's going to knock it out the park. You're not going to ask me anything else. Well, guess what? Resumes are like that too. I feel like some of us are looking for that home run internship or home run experience that, you know what, you're going to want me once you read these bullets about what I've done. But the reality is, most of us should hopefully think of resumes as just getting on base. The small things add up. Just like a home run, you hit it one time, good, you get a point. But you can also get points by going around the base four times. So you might hit a single, you might steal two bases, but you can still get a score. So value the little things, or the things that you may think that are little on your resume. Those things will add up over time. And so, what I really want to help you understand is, how do I tell my story? And for some of us, we may have that home run answer. For some of us, we are just on base. But either way, I'm trying to help you with some information that will help you score, hopefully, an interview, and then from there, a job. So, get on base. So, when you think about the Mona Lisa, right? Now, this is a question I will need y'all to answer. When you think about the Mona Lisa, what do you think is the most appealing thing, or the most noticeable thing when people see this picture? What do you think is the number one thing that they notice?
I think her hair and her face are very iconic.
Okay, her hair and her face. looking at the details in it, her smile, right? That's another key piece. When you look at that smile, it's like you see her whole face, but when you're drawn to the smile, that's really one of the smallest kind of pieces of the actual painting. So one of the things I want to really encourage you is that the small things add to the bigger picture. When you value the small things in your resume and you start to add those things up, it creates a great picture for you to share with companies. Now, when you think about Leonardo da Vinci, he's the one that made the Mona Lisa, right? What if I tell you he had other skill sets? So when you think about this, you would say he's creative, right? That's a skill set that he can show. Guess what? He was also an engineer. He was an engineer in that when you think about engineering skill sets, analytical skills, very technical on what they do. But the greatest thing that Leonardo was a team player. Leonardo was a team player. All right. He had his squad and he was the leader. And in many ways, as you can see, we all have different qualities that we bring to the table. Some of us are creative, some of us are analytical, some of us are team players. And in all these things, these are the things we want to show on our resume. So, what is your story? Your story is an expression of the things that you've done over a period of time, specifically over your collegiate career. And so, really, after your first 2 years in college, those are going to be experiences that a lot of companies are going to look for. All right. So, what have you done during this time? You know, what did you do to get these different experiences? And is there anything unique that's happened? What is your story and how we express that? Now, there's two ways that we express our stories. One way is oral. So when you think about the career fair, that's an oral way of expressing your story. These are the things that I've done, or your elevator pitch, job interviews. That all of this is just more oral. Now, the second way you kind of do this is kind of the written format. That's where your resume, your cover letter, your personal statement. These are ways for people to know what you have done and who you are. Okay, so can you tell a good story, especially your story? There should be no one that can tell your story better than you. Now, I'm gonna tell you a little tip. All right, there are 3 times, in my opinion, in your professional career that you should brag about yourself. There are 3 times: cover letters, resumes, interviews, and performance evaluations. Now, I say all 3 of those for this reason. I don't know how great you are unless you tell me. I can assume, but I'm not here to make assumptions. I need to know that you can articulate to me that you are the right hire. And so the more information you may not always need to provide more information, but sometimes it's about telling the right information and understanding what I'm looking for. And if you can tell a good story, I know in all 3 of those areas, you will find success. And so as we go to this next part, I want to give you some tips. Yeah, okay. Want to give you some tips about finding worth in your story. We at the Career Center, we see a lot of different students, all right? And hopefully we've seen you. And if we haven't, that's my shameless plug to come and see us at the Career Center, all right? There'll be other shameless plugs, so just feel free to interject and say, we've had enough of those. We get it, all right? Now, a lot of times we do not find the worth in what we do because we haven't really understood how to value it in such a way that we can articulate it to others. And so the first thing you need to do is, first of all, write it. Get a sheet of paper and just write out, what did you do in your various positions, whether it be internships, jobs, volunteer work, organizations that you're in leadership positions. Write out what you do in these various positions. All right, you got to validate it. And the first starts by writing. You want to budget time to do this. This is not a process that you want to rush. And so you want to actually take some time and think about, what is my day-to-day routine? And then also, are there some unique circumstances that have come from it? And so the easy way to do it is in bullet format, like you would on a resume, but just really write. Like, for example, mop the floor, clean the dishes, make it real simple, straight to the point. And again, what is your daily routine? Those are adding to the small things add up to the beginning. add to the bigger picture. So from start to finish, kind of think about like when you clock in to when you clock out. What do you do in between? But then think about those special projects that you've done over time, or any awards that you've received, any special things that may have happened in the company that you've contributed to. So first, let's validate it. Okay. And first, it starts with writing it. Second thing you have to do is what we call worth it. Okay. So what skill sets did you use or gain by going through these different positions in what you did? And so this gives it value. Now you have to believe it has a purpose. And if you don't believe it has a purpose, then why would I want to believe that? So when you think about a great story, you can tell it with excitement, and that now draws me in. So before you can really express it to someone else, you have to believe it has value. And then it has to be intentional about its purpose. So what I mean by being intentional is one of the things you're going to want to do is, let's say you're applying for a job. You want to take that job description, you want to take those qualifications and make sure you are hitting those skill sets that they're looking for in your resume. And the way you then do that is then look at what you've done and being able to classify which of these skill sets meet those criteria. So I'm gonna give you an example of what I mean about believe it has a purpose. I had a good friend of mine, she worked at Target, right? And her working at Target, she was like, man, I really didn't do much. I was a cashier, so I just rung people up. I was like, all right, tell me more of what you did. She was like, well, I would clean the area around me. I would kind of mop the little floor area. And I said, that's perfect. And she looked at me like, how is that perfect? That doesn't make sense. And here's the question I asked her. If there's a spill on the floor, right, what can happen? She was like, well, someone can slip and fall. I was like, that's correct. So by you mopping, what you're doing is you're maintaining a safe and clean environment for both customers and employees to enhance their experience. What did that all say? I mopped the floor. All right. But it has value. It shows safety is a concern. It shows it's detail oriented in making sure that you're taking care of others. And if it's a customer service job, that means that you find value in the experience for the customer, that the store looks clean. Those are three skill sets that we talked about just in one bullet. But what did we talk about again? Mopping the floor. There is value in everything that you do. If you ever watched the original Karate Kid, not the one with Jalen, no, the original one, all right, Mr. Miyagi, all right, he had him wax on, wax off, all right. Was there value in doing this? Yes, because it was showing him techniques. And what we want to be able to do at the Career Center is show you techniques, show you how to find value in the things that you have done. Okay, but first you got to believe it has value, and you have to be intentional about making that value connect with a job or a position. So now that you've written it, now that you've worked it, now you have to word it. How are you going to talk about it? Be creative with your words. Use a thesaurus. One of the things that I like to suggest people do with a thesaurus, find another meaning for the same word so that it looks different, but it's saying the same thing. So for example, I like to often suggest to use the word supervise when I'm talking about people, but manage is another word that's kind of similar. Okay, so you want to find things that are going to be similar, but it looks different and they mean the same thing. So be creative with your words. Wordsmithing goes a long way. Be expressive, but don't lie or embellish. So what I mean by that, if we take that example about mopping the floor, you don't want to put nothing like mop the floor of the entire store in 30 seconds or less. Like, all right, that's a big store. So I know you mopped the floor, but did you really do it in 30 seconds or less? So be careful about not to lie or embellish, because when it comes down for you to take your your written story, and now you have to talk about it in an interview or in a job fair, how are you going to be able to then talk about that if you don't understand or if you can't really provide evidence or kind of understand what you were writing? So don't embellish, don't lie, but be creative and expressive of how you word it. So here's some other little tips to think about. First of all, do your research. We kind of talked about that. Um, um, what are they looking for in students in terms of a job? What are some skill sets needed for your industry? Because for some of us, we are going to industries where it's a lot of technical skills or a lot of teamwork. So one of the things you can do is do some research, even on the companies at the career fair. One of the great things about Handshake, you can go and see these companies that are going to be there ahead of time, and you can do research about what are they looking for. And many of them may have internships on Handshake already up, ready for you to apply to. And now you can go in knowing I want to talk about these three things, or I need to make sure these three things are on my resume. All right. So do your research ahead of time. I would say that's one of the many underutilized skills that will help you prepare for your resume as well as interviews and other aspects. Um, Number two, look for opportunities to gain experience. I think a lot of times we look at our resume, and for example, when we said within a year, all the high school stuff comes off. Now that resume looks a little shorter than what it did that you've accumulated over that time in high school. Well, guess what? This is an opportunity to rebuild that, rebrand yourself. All right. It's about rebranding. Maybe there was an aspect of a skill set that you didn't really develop in high school. College can be the time that you do it. And so networking, I will tell you right now, networking, it works, but you have to work it. Networking works, but you have to work it. And what that means is putting yourself out there, going and talking to people. Hey, I like what you do. Can I have a conversation with you about that? And as you're networking, one of the things you're going to want to do is give them your resume. They'll give you tips on how to actually build on that resume. Leadership opportunities. Look for opportunities on campus. And that's more than just going to become like a president or a vice president. Join different committees. There are a lot of areas, even on campus, that students are able to engage with different offices where there are a lot of leadership opportunities. Sometimes it is going to a lot of these different student organizations. So get involved. Now, does that mean you need to be the president as soon as you join the first week? No. But the more you are involved, it shows the diversity of the skill sets that you've gained, but also shows the things that you're interested in. So that's something else to consider. Volunteering. Not everything is going to be paid, but guess what? Volunteering says a lot about A, you as a person, and B, it's easy leadership. And so that's one of the areas that, at least when looking at a resume under like a leadership experience, that's where volunteering can go. And I'll tell you this, I'm coming from an accounting background. And one of the things I learned probably within the last 2, 3 years, if you want to make partner, one of the things they look at is whether or not you volunteered, even in the community as a professional. And that really blew my mind because I never thought like, wow, volunteering was so important. So establish these habits now, because as you're moving up, you want to look for opportunities to volunteer. Do you know of a good way to find volunteer opportunities? Yes, there is an office. If anyone wants to help me out with the exact name, there's actually multiple ways. We also have our civil engagement here at the Stuckert Career Center. That's a way to get involved in opportunities, whether it be nonprofit or some other ways to get that kind of leadership experience, even through your student, through the student center. There's an office in there, kind of what student life focuses on, volunteering, and we can get you the exact office name. A lot of this may also just be going around and looking in Lexington as a whole to see if there are volunteer opportunities. And I would say volunteer with things that you're passionate about. And so we will find other ways. And I believe you can find some opportunities on Handshake where folks are just looking to get connected. So would anybody else like to add to that, Rachel or Beth or Reba?
I will drop in a website. We actually do through Service Learning. There is a website where you can search community opportunities as well. So I will go get that website and drop it in chat so you all can have that as a resource as well.
Thank you very much. You see, I told y'all we informal. So that's the reason why I appreciate the question. And so volunteering, experience is experience. Always remember that. No one can take experience away from you. If you've done it, then it's yours to share. All right. Now, some experiences are going to be paid and others won't. But either way, experience is experience. And I always like to tell people experience makes great interview material. So the more experience you have, it diversifies what you can talk about in an interview. And this is the second shameless plug. Go to the Career Center. We help you with resumes. We help you with practice interviews. We actually have something called Interview Stream that you have access to. Um, Interviews nowadays are going in a direction where you have to record yourself, and Interview Stream gives you that opportunity to kind of practice that in a setting. And so just wanted to kind of throw that out there. So I want to give you some brief tips about some resumes, and then we will move on from there. Now, resumes are a representation of you, who you are, your skill sets. You want to create interest. You want to create buzz. Okay, it's an outline of your experiences, and you're not going to be able to fit everything on your resume. All right, so keep it simple. Avoid charts, tables, excessive lines. You want to keep it simple because most resumes, most of the time, you'll have about a minute and 30 seconds on average. And really, a question I like to ask is, can you look at a resume in 6 seconds and know whether or not you want to hire someone? And I might give you the first 6 seconds. I might determine whether or not I want to finish looking at the resume. And if I'm going to give you the last minute and 24. But it's a process where I need to go through, get the information quick, straight to the point. So you want to be consistent with your formatting, your style. You want it to look uniform as possible. Now, with templates, you want to be careful. Um, Templates, those things, you won't have the flexibility to like move things or shape things a certain way because they're built a certain way. So I recommend starting from scratch, or if you know someone that who already has a format that is kind of comparable to what you're looking for, ask them if you can have a copy of their resume and then be able to use that as something that you can use as well. Now, we at the Career Center, we have example templates that you can find on our website, of resumes that you can kind of look at, looking at the formatting, consistency. Just want to offer that as a resource as well. But more does not mean better. I've seen people try and scrunch everything into a resume. Again, leave me some room to be able to have a conversation about it. I don't have the slide up, but one of the things I always tell people is like, resumes, like this whole process is like Red Lobster. Like networking are the Cheddar Bay biscuits. Like it's the thing you have before the meal. And so it whets the appetite. And then the main course comes out, and your side dishes, the broccoli, the rice, that's your resume. All right. That's something to complement the main piece, you know. And if you're vegetarian, I want to acknowledge that as well. So whatever your main piece is, that's actually the interview. That's where you're giving the most information. That's where you can talk about it, express it. But resumes get you the interview gets you the job. But I think sometimes we think the resume gets you the job. It doesn't jump a step many times. Okay. It's a component, but it's not necessarily the component. So resumes are subjective. There is no right resume. You can go to any one of us in the Career Center and we'll all give you different formats. And that's okay. There is no right way of doing it. But be mindful that there are certain things that we will call red flags that we think that are consistent across the board. Now, even though resumes are subjective, you want to be objective in your content. Be careful of how you word things, because if it leaves room for ambiguity, then you're leaving it up to me to decide what you mean by something. So try to make things as objective compared to subjective in your content. Okay, so things to consider: cosmetics versus content. So this is a rule for that I like to use. I want to specify it like that because for me, I first start with cosmetic. Does it look like I want to read it? If it doesn't look like I want to read it, I'm gonna toss it. If it's 3 pages, depending on the industry, tossing it. I've seen examples of being in different types of committees and reading through it. Some people said, no, this is too much, toss it. And you could have been the perfect candidate, but if it doesn't look like I want to read it, some folks won't give you that time. Now, in terms of content, you want to focus on what am I saying about my skill sets? And we already talked about that. Make sure you have skill sets that are geared towards where you want to go. Resume should be it should be 1 page. And this is not a CV. CVs are typically more pages, have more information, but a resume, you want to be one page. No abbreviations, be consistent. I'll put it like this: pretend like when you're giving your resume to someone that they know nothing about you or your industry. And the more you can talk about it, where it can go across various areas while still maintaining the the depths of the actual skill sets, it will allow you versatility for multiple different, for multiple jobs. And so be careful how you're using certain terminology. Sets of white space, be careful with that. And be careful with spellings. Because I think a lot of times a resume, some folks look for opportunities to get rid of resumes because they have so many. And misspellings and kind of those misused words, those are ways that people look at those um, for an opportunity to kind of get someone out. So this is just an example of a template of a resume. As you can see here, we have the education section, your degree, whether you have a minor, GPA, depending on the industry. But I would say, and for most part, if you have a 3.0 and above, you want to put your GPA depending on the industry. Some might require something higher. If it's lower than that, then you should take your GPA off. Okay, if you're not meeting that standard within the industry. If you made the dean's list, this is a great place to put it, as well as study abroad. It shows that you've been able to step outside of your comfort zone for many of us, and a lot of companies look at that as a positive. If you look at your work experience, you want to kind of put your employment, your title, and then some bullets about this. Now, for me, regarding resumes to look uniform, the same amount of bullets you have under a section, so like work experience, everything should have the same amount of bullets. Again, to be uniform from that perspective of cosmetics. And again, it varies from person to person, but that's just a suggestion. And we have leadership, organization skills. Sometimes what I do for organization, just put, hey, I'm a member of this organization, I'm a member, and then how long I've been a member for. So this is just an example of a format. Um, this is just, again, another example of how to kind of word things. So handling cash, transaction, processing transactions averaging 3,000 per shift. Numbers pop. So use a lot of different numbers when you can. Any number less than 10, you want to write out. Any number greater, you want to use numeric. And then again, be creative. So I'll tell you another example of being creative with your resume wording. Anybody has been a part of Dance Blue, whether you were a captain or something like that? One of the things is you raise money for Dance Blue, right? And there's this collective effort where at the end they tell you this big, large amount. Well, guess what? You might want to start with an action verb that talks about contributing X amount of money to, contributing X amount to the big number. So the 2.4 million, because that's not a lie. You contributed to the 2.4 million. So there are different ways on how you can kind of articulate that. And so this is just an example of how numbers really help draw out more information. Just some quick resume tips, and then I want to actually show you something on Handshake on how to properly update that on Handshake. Again, pay attention to kind of capitalized words, be as objective as possible. If you happen to use a course, use the course name, but not instead of the number. Because again, I may not have gone to University of Kentucky, so I don't know what UK 101 is. So you want to actually spell out the name so I can have some context with that. Spell out the dates. And so spell out all of January, spell out all of, December. And then, use two words instead of like contractions. So use like the actual words because you will have space to do that. Again, explaining abbreviations ahead of time and then proofread. We already talked about this before. Visit the career center. Have other people look at your resume and have them give you some feedback as well. Save in multiple formats, PDF, Word doc. When you're uploading something, you probably want to use a PDF. The reason why is because it keeps it and captures it exactly the way it is. Whereas if you use a Word doc, it can sometimes get distorted depending on what software someone is using, but PDF really keeps it in place. And then make sure that your resume is like a car. The more miles you put on it, you got to maintain it. So I really recommend that you update your resume at least once a semester, okay, just to keep it there. So what I want to show you real quick, I want to show you a quick example of how to do this on Handshake and the value of it, and then I am done. So hopefully I did that in a good amount of time for you that you feel like, yeah, I got what I needed out of this, and we will go from there. So uh, so this is one of the, I would say the disadvantages of having too many tabs open all at once. So don't be like me and have too many tabs open. Okay, that's the other lesson that we learned today. Okay. Oh, okay. I had it right. Here we go. Okay, it's making me log in again. So here's how you log into Handshake. All right. You want to make sure you use your Link Blue ID. We might as well go through the whole process. All right, so I'm actually going to go to so this is the student view. This is what you would actually see when you log into Handshake. So someone was nice enough to give me a 3.5 GPA. So whoever that was, I appreciate it. And we're going to keep that up as much as I can by not changing that. One of the things you can do with Handshake is, let's say you're, like we talked about earlier, you have this wealth of experience, but you want to put all this extra stuff somewhere. Handshake is a great place to upload all your extra things. LinkedIn is another great place to put more information about the things that you've done that may not be able to fit all in one page. And one of the things I always suggest people to do, if you update your LinkedIn, you can put your handle right below your address, and that will send people to that information. If you're in a creative field and depending on how you do your resume, if you have a website, you want to put that handle right below so that people can go to that information as they see fit. But when you come on Handshake, if you scroll down to the bottom, on the left-hand side where it says documents, you want to click upload. And here, this is where you can upload your resume, your cover letter, and a lot of different things, because as you're applying for the career fair, companies can then go onto your page and then get access to your resume. So that's one way that they can do it. And so I wanted to at least show you that, so you can select from your computer, upload it on here. Uh, let's see here. I got a whole bunch of random stuff on. Oh, where? Interview notes. Add document. So then when you come back here, oh, they're still converting my document. So then when a company comes to see it, okay. I can come here and edit the document. When I go back to my profile, it's going to show up right here as a document for me to for a company. So interview notes. So it shows up as a resume. And now as a company, I can go in and look at your resume. Okay. So I would say definitely do that in advance. And if you would like to talk more in terms of this one-on-one conversation, that's, I at least wanted to show you that. I would be I wouldn't do you a service by at least showing you how to upload your resume onto Handshake. And so Handshake is a great tool. Um, I'll say this last plug for Handshake. Um, when you think about Indeed, right? Indeed, there are millions of people searching on there. So you are literally competing with millions. Handshake, you're competing more in the hundreds of thousands because it's built specifically with 0 to 5 years of experience in mind. And so if you think of it like that, there's a shorter pool of people who are looking for you. So the more you use Handshake, the more it will work for you. So that's my last plug for that. Any questions? All right, did we get some great information today? All right. All right. I got my thumbs up. So I'm good. I'm good. Now, if you would like, feel free to again see us at the Career Center. We are here. We'll have some people even right now. If you just have resume questions, we'll kind of break out and have some conversations. But other than that, I know you're going to rock at the career fair. And the reason why I know that, because the step that you took here is already preparing you to take those next 3 steps forward the day of. So I commend you for being here. Tell a friend, because we all know we got a friend that needs this information. So tell a friend, and I look forward to seeing y'all either in the Career Center or at the Career Fair.